Hi, I'm Joel Miller, here with CJ Wilson. CJ did a lap around the track at Thunderhill here at the 25 hour, and we're going to go ahead and walk you guys through that.
Yeah, the key here, for those of you at home, maybe just getting your driver's licenses, pay attention to what we say, but don't try this on the roads by your house or on the freeway on-ramps and off-ramps. Drive safely, 2 hands on the wheel.
Thanks.
This is CJ Wilson in the Mazda Speed Dealer Car A, number 55, clean diesel.
And this is Joel Miller. I'll be CJ's teammate for the weekend, driving here at the 25 hours of Thunderhill. We're going to walk you through a lap in the Mazda 6 diesel.
It's kind of like a crawl, because here I am like bedding in the, I'm bedding in the brakes. So it's really wet. You know, the real key here, they were telling me, is not to get on the brakes too hard. So this car, the main advantage of the clean diesel car is to get phenomenal fuel mileage or fuel economy. But we're pulling, in the dry, we're pulling 6th gear up the straight. In the wet, you're kind of sticking in 5th. This is my first flying lap, so my approach to this corner was to start wide because I couldn't really use the brakes, so I really wanted to try and get as much track as possible. And this is where Joel's going to make fun of me for being really slow.
No, you're setting up for it just perfect. We're actually in the pit out lane, but here at Thunderhill, this is accessible while doing your laps. So on the way in, you're going to brake somewhere around the 1.5 board. Perfect line on the way in. It's a little bit wet, but that's why we have the later apex, so the tires won't spin because it's a front-wheel drive car. And then on the way to turn 2, CJ will talk about how he enters.
Yeah, the real key to turn 2 is in the wet. The entry, normally you do like you hang on the inside of a really long apex the whole way through, but when it's wet, you do more of like a single late apex, or you try to do almost like a rim shot. Now you can see there's some tire tracks leading straight off into the grass. That wasn't any of us, but somebody had a nice little Crocodile Dundee safari ride out there. I'm trying to just sort of set up a car width off my normal line and just sort of hang out there, just trying to get a feel for how much grip the car really has in the wet.
So as we enter turn 2, there's a few different ways because it's blind. If you enter too far to the left, you'll really never get back to the right. Also, there's not much braking reference here. There is a patch on the way into the corner, which you can see from the video. Very good reference for braking. Once you crest the entry to turn 3, you're going to want to get to the inside and hug it as much as possible because that'll set you up for the left leading on to 4. This is a very tidy section, like tic-tac-toe. One thing's going to lead to the next and lead to the next. If you mess the first one up, you're going to be playing catch-up the whole way through.
Yeah, you don't really want to try to get too cute and carry too much speed through here because it's a off camber, so the outside of the track is actually less grip than the inside of the track just in general. Especially with the rain, you know, you're going to get more grip towards the right side of the car. When you set up through this corner right here, I mean, I was pretty much taking the dry line the whole way through because it's slow enough that you're not really going to get a lot of wheel spin. Coming over the hill, the first time you've been to Thunderhill is kind of sketchy because you're literally driving into the sky. There's no reference points at all. There's no building or trees or anything in the background. So you have to just sort of set up middle of the road and then point it straight over the top. There's not really a lot of options here.
Yeah, exactly. And this here, you'll actually feel the car get light when you go up over the crest. I think one of our teammates acts there every time he goes whee up and over the top. But right when you land, that's when you want to go back to power. And again, getting back to the right upon the landing. If you try to fly the hill, let's say it too far to the right, there's actually a bump there, and you'll get the right side tires off the ground.
Yeah, it'll really smash the suspension. There's been a lot of cars over the years that'll catch air, slam one side of the car down, and they'll even lose a wheel because it's all that force. The other thing too in this section, this is during the race, there's a lot of traffic here because there's a lot of people are getting bottled up in between 3 and 4, and so coming over the hill, you'll have the faster cars like the ES cars, the Radicals and the ESRs and stuff like that be kind of coming up your left side. And in a street car like the Mazda 6, you don't necessarily have all the visibility that some of these other cars have, but we're actually running a backup camera full time, so you can really see. It really helps a lot, I think, especially at night, to see the fast movers coming up on you. Coming into this corner right here, this is a 6. It's a really fun left-hander. It mirrors 2 a little bit in the sense that it's a long turn, but in the wet, you're constantly adjusting your line because people are going off on the outside because they waited a little bit too long to turn in, and then the car just never turned. So it's more important to just slow in and fast out here because you have a really long semi-straightaway following that where you're going to grab 2 more gears. This is a corner where there's a lot of posts and pylons at the beginning of race or in practice. By the end of the race, there's nothing out there. It's just really dark and there's no reflectors.
I would say this corner is probably one of your top 3 most important because it leads onto the straightaway, and the risk reward here for exit because of that is quite good. If you could nail this corner for the overall lap time is very good. CJ mentioned those pylons on exit about after the 4th hour aren't there anymore, and you'll see a lot of cars over the course of the race start to venture out there into the dirt and bring that dirt on the exit. There'll be a large hole that develops and usually starts ripping exhausts off. So setting the car up for this corner will pay huge dividends over 25 hours as well as a specific lap. And then the kink is usually flat the first part of it, and then the second kink tightens up a little bit. Bravery comes into play, and it's a very fun corner, really rewarding.
Yeah, in the dry, in most of the cars, this second kink to the left will be pretty flat. I was trying to get a feel for it today. I tried to go flat yesterday in the rain. It did not end well. I did a nice 90-degree Fast and Furious slide through there, but I did not knock any pylons out, which was nice. So today, the good thing about bedding in the brakes was you really can't use them that much. So it gave me a chance to be more aware of what the mid-corner speed was going to be here that was going to keep me gripping and not sliding too far off the track, because it's such an important place to keep your momentum up, because there's even another little mini straight after this. So you're going through here in 5th gear, you know, 80 miles an hour or something like that sometimes, and when you're in the dry, you'll be going through there as fast as your car can go. A lot of the faster cars have wings, and they're just blowing by you right here. So it's an area you really have to know what's coming behind you, because some of the cars that are really fast, they might chop you, they might try to go the inside, go through the outside. There's a lot of really dicey action that goes through this corner.
So if there has to be a lift for whatever car you're in for the kink, the trick is to do it early rather than late. Anybody who's lifting in the middle of the kink, it's just going to really unsettle the car. So if you do it sooner, you can get back to power sooner, transfer that weight back to the rear, and the rear is going to be nice and stable through the corner. There is some exit.
But this is no fun though. Sometimes you got to lift to get that big drift. You know what I'm saying? This is one of the things that's most fun about cars, especially in the wet, is you can slide the car a little bit more. It's not the fastest way around the track, but it is a good time. Come on, man.
Style points.
Style points, just like on Forza. Yeah, so this one right here, it's a pretty heavy braking zone because you're coming from a pretty high speed during the race, but this corner is pretty fast, so you really try to carry that brake as deep as possible and really kind of pinch the brake and then lift off and get a good turn in. You're going uphill, so the car gets progressively more grip through entry into mid-corner. And then what's happened before, I've actually done it, is right about where the car's pointing right now. I've driven straight off here because I've been trying to go almost flat or flat through the corner. And the cars, the thing is with these Mazdas, they handle so good, it gives you a little bit of false confidence in the drive sometimes. But you'll be going through there and you'll almost go flat one time, and then you'll try it again with another clear lap, but you won't have as much tire because you'll have been out there for so long, and you'll end up going 2 off or 4 off on the right here through the dirt. So you'll see a lot of people have already tried that this weekend. You get some tire marks out there. You can actually catch air here and slam the car pretty hard, so it's really not a good place to test the Ivan Ironman Stewart ability of your car, unless you're in maybe the NASCAR truck could try that and slam down out there.
Dirt track, and that's what they do.
Right. So, you know, this section of the track is really critical for, I think, fuel mileage and also taking it easy on the car, because if you're pounding the car through here and you're getting one wheel up in the air or you're getting one wheel on the curb, you can bust up the differential, especially on the rear drive cars like the Miatas and stuff. But you're coming through here and you're going to be shifting into 5th gear, and then you're coming up to a pretty fast left-hander. It's got a little bit of camber at turn 10. 10 and 11 are kind of linked because it's just, you can sort of make it one big corner if you're in a really fast car with downforce. In our car right now, it's 2 separate corners. It's kind of like turn 6 and 7 at Road Atlanta, you know, where you have a really big sweep in and then you have a kind of really tight pinch on the way out. This is another area where you see tons of debris. People are really trying to get on that YOLO program and bring all kinds of speed in there, but sometimes you just can't. These inside pylons, there's actually a track. If you look on the left, there's a little grass patch, then a dirt patch. People will go 2 wheels off and drive straight across that to pass people later in the race. Endurance racing is supposed to be car under control most of the time, but you know, you get desperate. You're stuck behind a slow car and you're just like, okay, this is the time I got to make a move. And you see people, this corner particularly, really go off the inside part of the track trying to make a pass, which makes it very entertaining if you're on the clean line the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. This is a great passing opportunity because you could actually float quite a lot of speed around 10. The trick is to try to only brake once for 10 and 11. You want to brake late enough where you carry that brake around 10 and then off of it and then turn in for 11. Easier said than done, of course.
Yeah, it's really easy to get impatient and then charge 11 too hard. There's a lot of grip on the outside of 10, and then it flattens out, and you'll see like progressively more and more people throughout the race get really sideways here and then get really dirty and bring a lot of crap back onto the track. The thing is, here in the wet, the apex for 11 is so gross. There's just so much slime in there, and it just never dried off the whole time we were out there. If you roll a little bit too much speed in, then you're going to get offline. As you can see, there's a tire wall out here, which actually like completely demolished an Audi R8 that somebody was running last year. So it's almost better if you're going to miss that corner to stay right all the way through the grass, which I saw one of the Hondas do today, which is kind of funny. But the S corner, you know, if you can make it through the first part of the S's, then you're pretty much fine, and you can stay flat all the way to the bridge or whatever, depending on which car you're running.
How slippery was the paint there, CJ?
The paint wasn't too bad. I mean, you're driving so straight that it's you know, it's really not that big of a deal. In the dry, it's totally usable. In the wet, you know, if you have, I mean, I think the way it goes is with the slippery stuff. If you have a steering angle and you're applying throttle, then it gets really bad. But if your steering is just pretty straight, then you're okay. This is a tricky section in the wet right here because you're going pretty fast. You're hauling the mail through here in 5th, and you're trying to charge the corner because it's a slow entry. So you're really trying to get as far deep into it as you can to get on the brakes, but I'm bedding the brakes in, so I really can't do it as aggressively as I would like. You see a lot of, you know, a lot of carnage out there on the outside of this corner. I think that's one of our teammates ended up knocking that cone down on the left in qualifying, which he said he followed somebody straight off and all of a sudden was in the grass. This is just a really sloppy line through here because I'm just trying to find something where I can get some kind of grip to get some kind of exit speed, because this is another, like Joel said, it's a really, I mean, this is probably the most important corner, right?
Yeah, I would agree. It leads onto the longest straightaway, and it's a two-part corner. You have you have a first apex and a second apex, so you could brake really late, kind of gather it up between it, and then be able to get back to power soon enough that you can increase the length of the front straightaway. But as your line here, you're doing the rain line. It's wet. We're sidestepping the apex just a little bit to find that grip.
Yeah, and in the dry too, you can actually see there's a lot of, this is actually pretty grippy little like railroad tracks out here. So if you're in, remember a couple years ago we were in our Grand Am Miata, and we would just arc that whole thing in the dry because it would just had so much grip, we would just fly through the whole thing. But obviously in the wet you can't get anywhere near that because it's all painted. Right here, you know, I was playing with some different stuff, trying to kind of progressively roll on the throttle, which is what you're supposed to do. If you go too early to the throttle, then it pushes you wide. And the worst thing you can do right here is end up in the grass on the outside of this corner because it completely hoses your time. If you get a good exit on this, you're on the straight for a really, really long time. And so just staying clean is really the most important part. I think right here there was a BMW behind me, and I pulled all the way over to let him by. I don't know where, there he goes.
If you could think of it and build it, this is a place to come and run it for 25 hours.
Right. You don't even need a roof. Some of these cars, Fisher drove for a couple hours with no windshield a couple years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's you see a lot of stuff out here, but coming from the professional side of racing to this race, it's a highlight on my calendar. It's so fun to do.
Right. It's just 100% fun. So I mean, if you ever get a chance, anybody watching this that likes to race, come to Thunderhill. This is absolutely where it's at.
So I did a lap around Thunderhill. It's 3 miles. It was in the wet. Conditions were a little tricky, but you know, I survived. That's the key, right?
Exactly. Thunderhill, rain, snow, it could be freezing out here.
And Miatas everywhere.
And
Miatas everywhere. You never know what's going to happen.
So with that, some of the takeaways, like we said, everywhere.
Let's do one more. Beep.
As you saw with CJ's video here at Thunderhill, he's put together a massively fast lap. And we could take a few takeaways from that. A few of those: turn 6, important corner; turn 11, important corner; and make sure you get the last one right because it leads on to the longest straightaway around the whole track. And
always keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle. Sermon ser centavos, por favor. Beep. Hi, I'm CJ Wilson of CJ Wilson Racing, and this is Joel Miller. Beep. So one of the things that's the most challenging about driving here is the conditions are different every year. We've had snow, we've had fog, we've had sleet. So I'm going to go out and
Torrential rain.
Torrential rain. Yeah, we've had dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Beep.